What happens when a royal title becomes a brand deal? When a child's smile isn't just joy, but content? And when a family argument transforms into a constitutional crisis that could redefine what it means to be born into royalty in the 21st century? This isn't about crowns or palaces, it's about two children caught between two worlds and the unprecedented decision that just shook the monarchy to its core. February 5th, 2026, Windsor Castle. Princess Anne has just drawn a line in the sand, and the shockwaves are still spreading across the Atlantic. Let's start with what actually happened, because this story didn't begin with a press release. It began with silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than any scandal. For over a year, one of the most famous children in the world has been completely invisible. No photographs, no public appearances, no glimpses at school events or family gatherings. 7-year-old Archie, once the center of global fascination when his parents stepped back from royal life, has simply vanished from view. At the same time, his younger sister, 5-year-old Lilibet, has been everywhere. Brand launches, promotional content, carefully curated social media moments that blur the line between childhood and performance. Two siblings, two completely opposite experiences, and a father caught in the middle, watching it all unravel. On January 23rd, an emergency meeting was called at Buckingham Palace. Not the usual ceremonial gathering, but a real crisis session. The kind where legal advisors outnumber family members and the doors stay closed for hours. Princess Anne sat at the head of the table. King Charles was there. So was Prince William, the Duchess Sophie, senior legal counsel, and notably, a representative from the UK Department for Children and Families. What brought them all together? A stack of documents that had been quietly building for months, reports, concerns. Allegations that two young children weren't just living outside the royal system, they were being shaped by forces the monarchy had never had to confront before: the entertainment industry, social media algorithms, brand partnerships, and a mother determined to rewrite the rules of what a royal childhood could look like. By the morning of January 24th, Clarence House released a statement unlike anything issued during King Charles's reign. It wasn't diplomatic, it wasn't vague, it was direct, emotionally charged, and impossible to ignore. The royal household expressed grave concern for the physical, emotional, and educational welfare of both children. It condemned any attempt to divide siblings for financial or image purposes, and it made clear that certain lines, once crossed, would not be tolerated. The statement didn't name Meghan Markle. It didn't have to. Behind palace walls, the situation had already escalated beyond private disagreements. Prince Harry, through his UK legal team, had filed sworn testimony describing his daughter's daily life in terms that sent chills through the family. Structured brand rehearsals, limited playtime, social media grooming. He used the phrase "managed like a minor celebrity asset," and suddenly, the fairy tale of California freedom started to look more like a cautionary tale. Palace investigators quietly began reviewing contracts tied to Lilibet's image. What they found was staggering. Over 10 separate agreements, fashion lines, skincare campaigns, scripted video content, educational toy partnerships. For a child who had just turned 5, one senior royal aide, speaking off the record, put it bluntly: "This stopped being a family matter the moment childhood became a business model." And so the monarchy did something it hasn't done in over 2 decades. It activated emergency child protection protocols for royal descendants living abroad. Within 72 hours, the machine was in motion. Prince William's legal team sent cease and pause letters to Archewell and its commercial partners, demanding a temporary freeze on all content involving Lilibet until independent oversight could be established. Princess Anne formally requested that Prince Harry submit a detailed framework explaining how he intended to protect both children's well-being in their current environment. Meghan Markle received a formal legal summons requiring her to explain why Lilibet had been removed from her accredited school in December, and why she had rejected psychological guidance from the institution's child welfare advisors. Then came the move that stunned even seasoned royal watchers. Under an obscure legal provision known as the Royal Descendants Clause, Clarence House filed a request with California state medical boards for a full psychological and health wellness report on both children. It's a mechanism rarely invoked, but it exists precisely for moments like this, when royal blood crosses international borders and parental conflict threatens a child's development. The palace wasn't making threats, it was building a case. But while Lilibet's overexposure dominated headlines, it was the absence of Archie that truly haunted the family. Duchess Sophie, normally reserved and measured, reportedly stood during an internal strategy session and said something that left the room silent. The absence of Archie is a silence that screams. We cannot let him become emotionally orphaned while both his parents are at war in public. According to sources close to the family, Archie has developed a fear of cameras. He rarely engages with other children. Teachers have noted withdrawn behavior. And when filming equipment enters the house for one of Lilibet's shoots, he visibly shuts down. Harry's own legal filings describe his son as shaken and emotionally flat. A child learning to disappear. It's a tragic irony. One sibling is over-commercialized, the other is erased, and both are suffering in ways that money and fame will never fix. This is where the story takes a turn, because Meghan Markle wasn't about to stay silent. On January 28th, she held a virtual press conference. Calm, composed, sitting in front of a backdrop of soft lighting and carefully arranged books, including her own. Her message was clear and unapologetic. Lilibet is not being exploited. She's being empowered. She has gifts, and I will not apologize for cultivating them. She framed Prince Harry as regressive, out of touch, unable to understand what she called modern representation and generational legacy building. She defended the decision to homeschool Lilibet as protective and emotionally intelligent. She dismissed concerns as rooted in outdated norms and institutional jealousy. And when asked directly whether Lilibet was working more than 15 hours a week on branded content, she paused, then smiled. She's not working, she's creating. There's a difference. But the royal family saw no difference at all. Princess Anne's advisory team had been compiling something they called internally the Lilibet logs, a detailed record of the child's schedule over a 3-month period. What they found was disturbing. Monday and Wednesday, filming short-form content for Archewell's brand platforms. Thursday, voice training sessions for potential audiobook narration. Friday, mother-daughter product photo shoots for upcoming wellness campaigns. Weekends filled with live streams, toy unboxings, and virtual meet and greets on private subscriber platforms. Between October and December of 2025, Lilibet logged over 190 recorded work hours, the equivalent of 6 full adult work weeks. She's 5 years old. Former contractors who had worked with Archewell began speaking to investigators, anonymously but consistently. One described an incident where Lilibet forgot a scripted line during filming and cried quietly for 15 minutes. A staff member reportedly told her she needs to learn resilience. Another recalled a day when Meghan, frustrated by delays, raised her voice at her daughter and said, "If you want to build something in this world, you have to show up every time. No exceptions." Meghan's team has dismissed these accounts as exaggerated and taken out of context. But the emotional residue is real, and it's now part of the official record. During her press conference, Meghan tried to reframe the controversy through her own childhood. "I know what it's like to feel like a side character in someone else's life. I refuse to let my daughter be voiceless." She spoke about growing up in a one-bedroom apartment, using secondhand textbooks while watching wealthier classmates glide ahead on legacy and privilege. She called Lilibet her second chance at getting it right. But to the royal family, that admission was a confession in disguise. "You don't heal your childhood by hijacking your daughter's future," one palace insider said quietly. "That's not empowerment, that's projection." Central to the family's concern is what happened in December at Brentwood Academy, the private school Lilibet had been attending. According to reports, disagreements arose over curriculum flexibility and media restrictions. Meghan wanted more control. The school wanted structure. When compromise failed, Lilibet was pulled. By mid-December, the school had issued a formal absence report noting that Lilibet had been gone for 3 weeks without explanation. More troubling, the report suggested that key social development markers were not being met. On January 10th, Brentwood sent another notice. This one was direct. If homeschooling continued without professional oversight, they recommended a full developmental assessment. Princess Anne's office immediately followed up with a formal letter to Meghan, requesting a written explanation. What is the educational plan? Who are the certified supervisors? And why was psychological oversight, offered by the school's wellness team, refused outright? Meghan has not responded. Her spokesperson called the inquiry patronizing and intrusive. But the questions remain, and so does the growing contrast. Lilibet, overworked and overexposed, Archie, invisible and anxious. One thriving in the spotlight she never asked for. The other retreating from a world that once adored him. Princess Sophie's words echo louder now. The child seems to be fading, not in body, but in joy. It's that contrast, that painful imbalance, that has become the moral center of the royal family's response. This isn't about punishing Meghan. It's about protecting two children from becoming symbols before they've had the chance to simply be. And so, Princess Catherine stepped forward. She's the one person in this entire saga who carries no baggage with Meghan. No public feuds, no leaked stories, just quiet competence and a reputation built on steady, unglamorous consistency. Catherine proposed something radical, a private, in-person summit at Windsor. No press, no staff, no recordings, just family. The goal wasn't reconciliation, it was clarity. A chance to strip away the lawyers, the headlines, the posturing, and ask one simple question. What's actually best for these children? The proposed dates were set for February 9th through 11th. A secure wing at Windsor Castle was quietly reserved. A 72-hour media silence window was drafted. A neutral child psychologist was put on standby. Hand-delivered invitations went out on February 2nd. Prince Harry is said to be open, hopeful even. Meghan's camp has been silent. Behind that silence, though, is a carefully calculated decision. Meghan's advisors are split. One faction urges her to attend and reframe the narrative as a misunderstood mother under institutional attack. Another pushes for a media counteroffensive, a major interview, maybe even a documentary. There are whispers of a project tentatively titled Uncrowned, designed to tell her side with cinematic precision. And then there's the trademark application. Filed quietly but deliberately, Meghan is seeking to trademark the phrase "raised by purpose" under Lilibet's name. To the palace, this is the smoking gun. Not a motherhood philosophy, a product line. If that application moves forward, Clarence House is prepared to file a formal objection under international media ethics agreements. But trademarks and legal letters are just the surface. The real battle is about legacy, because this moment isn't just about Meghan and Harry. It's about the ghost that haunts every royal decision involving children and media. Diana, the woman who told the world she wanted her boys to be real people, who fought to give them normal experiences in an abnormal life, who was ultimately destroyed by the very system she tried to humanize. Now her legacy is fractured. Meghan positions herself as Diana reborn, breaking free from institutional suffocation to build something new. Catherine embodies Diana's quieter promise: protection over performance, presence over publicity. And somewhere between those two interpretations, two children are trying to grow up. Catherine recently told a close advisor something that's been circulating privately among senior royals. They are not proxies in a parental rivalry, they are children, and they deserve peace. If the summit fails, or if Meghan refuses to attend, the palace has a plan. It's called Operation Veil, and it has two pathways. Path A: Meghan participates, dialogue succeeds. The family releases a unified, non-specific statement affirming shared values around child welfare. The public sees collaboration, not conflict. Path B: Meghan escalates or refuses. The palace moves forward with a constitutional clarification. Lilibet's use of royal symbols and identifiers will be formally unauthorized. The family will publicly endorse Harry's custody petition, and Princess Anne, possibly alongside Catherine, will give a carefully worded interview reaffirming institutional ethics without directly attacking Meghan. It's a diplomatic scalpel, precise, painful, irreversible. Royal lawyers have already consulted external firms specializing in image rights law, psychological risk in child branding, and transatlantic custody agreements. Princess Anne has convened a second emergency session of the newly formed Royal Child Preservation Council. They're drafting proposals to bar unauthorized commercial use of any royal child's likeness and to mandate independent psychological evaluations in cases of parental conflict abroad. Duchess Sophie, meanwhile, is working on something broader: internal ethics protocols for all royal descendants living outside the UK. A minimum threshold of protection from media conditioning and exploitative exposure. As one staffer put it, this is no longer just about Archie and Lilibet. It's about the next generation. It's about whether royal children will be brand ambassadors or free human beings. And King Charles, largely silent in public, is deeply troubled in private. According to multiple insiders, he's issued strict instructions. The image of a Windsor child must not become a marketplace tool. His concern isn't just reputational, it's generational. He believes that if this situation is mishandled, it could undo 30 years of progress in public trust, all the way back to the reforms that followed Diana's death. Charles has requested weekly updates from both legal counsel and the Child Preservation Council. He's reviewing psychological reports. He's reading summaries from California Child Services and from Brentwood Academy. And he's left one option on the table that no one wants to use but everyone knows exists. If Meghan continues resisting inquiries or refuses to participate in welfare negotiations, the monarchy could request cooperation from local child welfare agencies in California. They could seek visibility into medical and educational records under diplomatic consent. In extreme cases, they could even request temporary oversight. The directive hasn't been signed, but it's drafted, ready. One senior Crown advisor framed it carefully. This isn't about reclaiming children or challenging maternal authority. It's about preventing a reputational and emotional implosion. If Lilibet becomes a cautionary tale, the monarchy's moral legitimacy goes with it. And then, on February 2nd, Prince Harry did something that shocked even his own family. He filed for full legal and physical custody of both children in Los Angeles Superior Court. No warning, no negotiation. Just a formal petition that landed like a bomb. The filing was blunt. The emotional bifurcation of siblings is not a solution. It is institutionalized trauma. Meghan's legal team was blindsided. Within days, they filed a counter-motion proposing split custody. Archie would spend 9 months a year in the UK with Harry and 3 months in California. Lilibet would remain full-time in the US. Citing media risks and the infrastructure already built around her, quote, educational and career systems. For a 5-year-old, that phrasing alone sent alarm bells ringing through Windsor. Included in Harry's filing was sealed testimony from a third-party child psychologist who had spoken with Lilibet via video in late December. What she said, though not legally binding, was heartbreaking. I want to go where I don't have to smile every time. I want to be with Archie. That single line, according to sources, cracked open an emergency briefing at Windsor on January 13th. It wasn't just a daughter asking for her brother. It was a child rejecting performance as identity. The legal filings also included the warning letter from Brentwood Academy, severe absenteeism, inability to confirm learning milestones, concerns over emotional self-regulation. And then there was the anonymous report filed with California Child and Family Services, believed to have come from a former Archewell contractor. It cited excessive media involvement and atypical structure for a child under 10. As of now, the department hasn't opened a formal investigation, but they're watching. Harry's emotional state has become increasingly visible. At a veterans charity event on January 19th, attendees noted he looked gaunt, distracted, almost hollowed out. One person said he didn't mention Meghan's name once, but he said "my children" 7 times. For Meghan, the pressure seems to be hardening into defiance. She's blocked all joint interviews. She's disallowed Harry from attending upcoming Archewell promotional events, citing strategic divergence. What began as a philosophical split is now a judicial war, and 2 children are standing at the center, wondering why love has to feel like a courtroom. As the days count down to the Windsor summit, the world is holding its breath. Catherine's handwritten letter to Meghan, delivered privately on January 29th, may be the last olive branch extended. One verified excerpt read, "Whatever divides us, I believe we both want them to feel loved before they feel watched." I hope we can still agree on that. It's a plea, not from a princess to a duchess. But from one mother to another, Meghan has not replied. The silence from Montecito is louder than any statement. It's the silence of someone deciding whether to walk into the room or burn the invitation. If she refuses, the consequences are clear. Institutional distancing, legal isolation, public clarification that her commercial use of royal lineage is unauthorized. If she accepts, there's a chance, however fragile, that this family might find a way to put the children first. But right now, no one knows which path she'll choose. Behind the palace walls, preparations continue, contingency plans are updated, legal documents are reviewed, diplomatic channels remain open. And in California, 2 children are living vastly different childhoods under the same roof. One is learning to perform, the other is learning to hide. One is seen too much, the other not enough. And both are paying a price that no contract, no brand deal, no royal title could ever justify. This is not about whether Lilibet and Archie wear crowns. It's about whether they grow up free to make mistakes, free to be bored, free to play without a camera recording it. Free to simply be children before the world asks them to be anything else. As King Charles approaches his 2nd year on the throne, history won't remember him for ceremonies or speeches. It will remember what he chose to protect when no one was watching, and on February 5th, 2026, he made his choice. The crown is no longer silent, it's awake, and it's acting. Because if the monarchy can't protect its own children from becoming products, then what is it really protecting at all? The Windsor summit is days away. Meghan's decision looms, and two children, somewhere between Los Angeles and London, are waiting to see if the adults in their lives can finally put them first. This is not a story about royalty, it's a story about childhood, about the invisible line between nurturing potential and exploiting it, about what we owe the smallest, most vulnerable people in the room when power, fame, and money are all screaming for attention. And right now, the only voices that matter are the ones too young to fight back. The world is watching, the palace is ready, and the clock is ticking. What happens next will define not just this family, but what it means to be a child in the age of content, celebrity, and relentless visibility. The question isn't whether the monarchy will survive this moment, it's whether two children will.